Hey, my name is Leanne, and I'm fascinated with helping women navigate how to eat, move, and care for their bodies. This has taken me on a journey from vegan, keto, high protein to everything in between. I'm a small town holistic nutritionist turned 3-time international bestselling author turned functional medicine practitioner, offering telemedicine services around the globe to women looking to better their health and stop second-guessing themselves. I'm here to teach you how to wade through the wellness noise to get to the good stuff that'll help you achieve your goals. Whether you're seeking relief from chronic ailments, striving for peak performance, or simply eager to live a more vibrant life, this podcast is your go-to resource for actionable advice and inspiration. Together, we'll uncover the interconnectedness of nutrition, movement, sleep, stress management, and mindset, empowering you to make informed choices that support your unique health journey. Think of it as quality time with your bestie mixed with a little med school so you're empowered at your next doctor visit. Get ready to be challenged and encouraged while you learn about your body and how to care for it healthfully. Join me as we embrace vitality, reclaim our innate potential, and discover what it truly means to pursue healthfulness. Welcome back to the show. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. We're going to be going through a behind the scenes listen into what it's like when I walk a client through their GI map results. So if you've ever been told that your bloating, fatigue, inflammation is just normal, or you need to lose weight before they care, or you do a colonoscopy and everything comes back fine, or you're sent for a stool test and everything comes back fine, or you're told to just go on XYZ medication. I see a lot of acid reducers being prescribed. Maybe you've looked at labs and everything is fine, but you don't feel fine. You get the idea. This one's for you. So the GI map is one of my most favorite functional tests because it gives such a clear picture of what's really happening inside your gut. It's a test that I personally do on my gut every year. Whether my gut is good or not, on my birthday, I run it. And it looks fully at your microbiome, all the bacteria, the viruses, the fungi, even the parasites that live in your digestive system. And it really shows us how well you're digesting food, processing food, how your liver and immune system are functioning, even whether or not inflammation or infection might be part of your symptoms. Now, it doesn't test every single parasite, but let me tell you, it gives such a beautiful picture of what's happening in the gut. It's actually a DNA-based stool test, which means that it's incredibly accurate and very detailed. When I read one of these reports, I'm not just looking at whether or not something is high or low. I'm looking at the patterns, how the digestive system, immune system, and the inflammatory systems are really working and talking together, and the processes, because the gut tells a story just like blood work. And every data point adds a new chapter to the whole story. And unfortunately, what a lot of practitioners will do when they're not fully educated on the GI map is they'll go to it and they'll say, well, you have streptococcus. We need to treat the strep. But it's like the strep's only there because there's a digestive dysfunction. And if you correct the digestive dysfunction, the strep goes away. So in this episode, you're going to hear me explain one of my clients' GI map results across 3 short clips. And I'm going to be jumping in and sharing with you kind of how it all works. You're going to hear how we identify her specific type of dysbiosis, what's really behind her inflammation, and how that connects to energy, hormones, and even her nervous system. So if you've done a GI map before, or you're super curious if you should, I'm hoping that this episode will really help you understand what this kind of testing can reveal, especially if you've done a GI map before and the practitioner just said, you have dysbiosis. I would highly encourage you to find somebody else to assess that, because there's so much more to it than just dysbiosis. And this is why this test is just so transformative. It is a number 2 test because it's a poop test. Get it? Number 2. I didn't mean to make that joke, but my number 1 test is blood work for sure. And a close second is the GI map. I have way too much fun here. Okay, let's jump into it. Here's the first part of the results where we talk about the 3 main types of gut dysbiosis and what her pattern shows. I'm so grateful that we did this because it gives us a really good understanding of what's happening with the gut and how to bring adjustment. Yeah, so let's just dive in. There are 3 different dysbiotic patterns in the gut that we can use and understand through the GI map. So when somebody says, I have gut dysbiosis, that really means nothing because there are so many different types. We need to know what kinds we have. So we have digestive dysfunction dysbiosis, inflammatory dysbiosis, and insufficiency dysbiosis. Now, we can cross insufficiency dysbiosis off the list because if you look on page 2 under commensal keystone bacteria and you just take your eyes down the page in those little arrows, most of them are in the green or more so on the right side. So we don't have to worry about you not having enough bacteria, though we do see Akkermansia is a little bit low and Faecalibacterium is a little bit low. Why we care about those two is because as we are incorporating more plants, we're going to see those increase. Like Akkermansia does really well with colorful vegetables and fruits. Think like pomegranates and red apples and cabbage, things that have a lot of color, specifically in the purple and red category. And Faecalibacterium, it's a butyrate producer. And this is really important because butyrate helps to lower inflammation. And this is going to be really important as we talk about the rest of the patterns in your GI map because there's a significant amount of inflammation. So the more we support the Faecalibacterium in bringing in foods, specifically plants, to bring this back into balance, the more butyrate you'll produce and the more anti-inflammatory your gut is. And this bacteria actually, based on the fact that you haven't been eating plants, I am blown away that Faecalibacterium is as high as it is. Generally speaking, in people with carnivore diets, their Faecalibacterium is going to be super low. So I'm really encouraged by this. And just with a couple of adjustments to diet, I'll outline them in the protocol, we can make some pretty good advances here with both of these. Okay, so the other dysbiotic patterns are digestive dysfunction dysbiosis and inflammatory dysbiosis. And oftentimes they go hand in hand. Basically, it starts with the digestive dysfunction and then morphs into an inflammatory. Also, not surprised at the inflammatory side of things, only because when we are eating carnivore, oftentimes we do see an inflammatory dysbiotic pattern. So let's start with digestive dysfunction dysbiosis so you can understand kind of what this is. So if we go to page 2 of your GI map, you're going to see the presence of H. pylori at 928. Though it's not flagged as high, when there is presence of H. pylori, we can assume that there's digestive dysfunction. And we go to page 3 under Staphylococcus and Streptococcus to determine whether or not the digestive dysfunction is leading to an overgrowth of common bacteria associated with digestive dysfunction, including staph and strep. And yes, they have been. So we could assume that you're dealing with a digestive dysfunction dysbiotic pattern. Risk factors under this have to do with stress, low zinc intake, alcohol, poor diet, gallbladder issues, and overall dysfunction of the liver. So then we can go to the marker on page 4 called steatocrit. Steatocrit is an assessment of fats in your stool. It gives us an understanding of how an individual's liver function is operating as it results in fat digestion. Oftentimes individuals that have a steatocrit any more than 0 struggle with the absorption of vitamins A, D, E, K, zinc, and selenium, especially when it comes to the fat-soluble areas of absorption. So your A, D, E, and K are essential not only for anti-inflammatory and antioxidant status, but also for hormone health, urination, like everything to do with the kidneys require proper absorption of A, D, E, and K because they're antioxidants throughout the body. Element makes it simple to stay hydrated with a clinical dose of electrolytes, 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, and 60 milligrams magnesium. No sugar, no junk, just what your body actually needs. As a practitioner, I love that Element offers a raw, unflavored option, perfect if you're avoiding sweeteners or additives. It's an easy go-to for supporting adrenal health, proper muscle function, and overall hydration, especially for those on a low-carb diet or fasting protocols. Whether you're training hard, working long days, or just prone to feeling sluggish and depleted on a low-carb diet, this can help. Right now, Element is offering a free 8-stick sample pack with any purchase. You'll get to try their most popular flavors, including citrus, raspberry, watermelon, and orange. Go to drinklmnt.com/KDP for your purchase and get your free 8-stick sample pack. Again, that's drinklmnt.com/KDP. So that first section was all about recognizing the digestive patterns, like how bacteria levels give us cues about the liver and bioflow and fat absorption. Next, I want to kind of focus us on why we start and how we start connecting those patterns to specific issues. In her case, inflammation and immune stress. So let's cut over to it. So when we have the steatocrit elevation, it gives us an assessment of the overall digestive dysfunction, dysbiosis. When the liver is not operating properly, the bile is not operating properly, therefore we're not absorbing and assimilating our fat-soluble nutrients, A, D, E, K, and therefore it kind of gives us an assessment of overall digestive function. So not only do we need to support the proper utilization of bile throughout the body, but we also need to make sure that we are absorbing these A, D, E, K vitamins because they're absolutely essential downstream to mucosal health, urination, all of those pieces. And also because they're antioxidants, they also help with inflammation. And so when we're assessing for digestive dysfunction, we're going to look at H. pylori presence, we're going to look at the function of the liver, the function of the enzymes as well. So you're going to notice right below that enzyme sitting at 707. This is a little bit confusing for some because on paper it looks like you have enough digestive enzymes, elastase being the marker. But when we see this in conjunction with commensal keystone bacteria being on the higher end, like you can see on page 2, Enterobacter is a little bit elevated, the Escherichia is a little bit elevated. This is telling me that inflammatory processes are causing commensal bacteria to be higher. And when that happens, our enzymes are going to increase. So because we're dealing with steatocrit issues, digestive dysfunction, it makes sense to bring in enzyme support, especially because you've had a past of not going to the bathroom really, really well. So in your protocol, I'm going to add enzymes to just help all of this in addition to supporting your liver so that you can break down those fats, so that you can use the fats and start to correct things. We know that fats aren't being properly absorbed and utilized because on page 2, the firmicutes is a little bit elevated. That's a good marker to tell us that we're eating too much fat or we're not absorbing the fat that we're eating. So the changes that you're making with diet are already on point with where we want to take things. And I'm so happy that you adjusted like so quickly. Oftentimes it is fighting tooth and nail for my clients to like get them to be okay with plants. So I'm just so proud of you because it is such a huge thing to get over mentally. And it's just, I often don't see it happening so quickly. And I'm just really, 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 really happy for you. Let's get into the other dysbiotic pattern, which is inflammation dysbiosis. So an inflammatory dysbiosis. We know this when there's a presence of a certain type of bacteria, Pseudomonas, Citrobacter, Klebsiella, Proteus. These are inflammatory bacteria that when they're in the gut, they're going to cause a substantial amount of inflammation. So if we go to page 3, you're going to see Pseudomonas is not only present, but elevated. Pseudomonas is not pleasant. It is highly reactive in the body. It can cause all sorts of issues and needs to be addressed like immediately. Basically, Pseudomonas can create these toxins that can go through the body and damage cells. It's usually super symptomatic in people from loose stools, constipation, cramping. It's further triggered by gluten, casein, eggs. You can have sensitivities to foods that you never had sensitivity to, and it drives up intestinal inflammatory activity. And because it produces these toxins that damage cells, we can see all sorts of stuff throughout the body, like migraines, issues with hormones, all of it's Pseudomonas is one of the bacteria that when I test it and an individual has gone from practitioner to practitioner and not getting answers, and Pseudomonas is like, yeah, this explains so much. They just don't feel good across the board. So I'm happy to see this because it's not impossible to reduce. It responds really, really well to garlic. And so the protocol that I'm going to put together for you is probably going to be like a 3-phased approach over 6 months where we work to address not only in the inflammatory dysbiosis, but the digestive dysfunction dysbiosis side by side, because digestive dysfunction will then lead to an inflammatory dysbiotic pattern over time. And we know kind of a rough timeline based on the marker on page 4 called secretory IgA. These are the gut soldiers of your body, and they are necessary for keeping your gut in check. You've heard of protein, you've heard of collagen, and even amino acids, but bioactive peptides, these are short amino acid chains that signal your cells to take action. They're not just nutritional building blocks, they're functional messengers. Make Wellness is pioneering a new class of oral plant-based bioactive peptides that influence everything from muscle growth to fat metabolism to brain health and inflammation. Unlike collagen peptides, which only provide raw material, bioactive precision peptides are encrypted in a protein matrix and designed to survive digestion, cross into the bloodstream, and communicate with your DNA. The result: faster muscle repair, better metabolic control, stronger resilience, and is perfect for women over 35, especially during perimenopause, post-illness recovery, or when workouts no longer deliver the same results. I like to think of it as, let's say you take vitamin C and your goal is that the vitamin C will support your immune function. But vitamin C does so much more than that. What if you could take a vitamin C that was structured in a way that would directly influence immune system with nothing else? It was a direct immune system function. This is what bioactive peptides are doing. They're amino structures that have been changed and adjusted for targeted results. I am so excited about bioactive peptides. And if you feel like you've been doing everything right and still feel like your body isn't responding, this may be your missing link. I personally take these products. I've loved the Focused to help with my ADD. I've enjoyed taking the Fit as a pre-workout to adjust body recomposition. I'm taking the Lean to help with insulin regulation and appetite as I cut down on my calories. I've been doing Hydrated instead of taking Element, which was getting me bloated. I've been doing Calm to help me chill down when I'm a little bit anxious and overwhelmed. It's a fabulous suite of products. You can go to healthfulpursuit.com/make or check out the link in the show notes to get all the details. Okay, now you can see how inflammation starts layering on top of digestive dysfunction. And in this next section, I want to walk you through what it means for the immune system, specifically secretory IgA and overall recovery. And you can see that the secretory IgA is low. Like, it's lower than 210. It doesn't go lower than 210, so it could be even lower than that. In my experience, there are things that we can do, like supplementing with collagen and bringing in MCT oil. Oh, and Aspalardi, which we're going to add to the protocol. But generally speaking, the more nervous system work that you do, the better off your immune response will be. I think that the changes that we made to diet are so on point with the patterns that we're seeing here, and especially to support the secretory IgA, because it does better when there's ample amount of nutrients specifically coming from plants. However, any sort of nervous system work that we can bring into your protocol, from box breathing to meditation to humming, singing, is going to help bring up the secretory IgA. And when the gut soldiers are stronger, they're going to produce a better protection across the board when it comes to gut protection in the future. Oh, right. The occult blood. So the reason why I asked whether or not you were on your period during the GI map preparation is because we don't want to see blood in the stool. When it gets above 10, I would prefer to refer out, but we're at the 4 mark, which just tells me the inflammatory stuff that's happening is causing upper GI issues. So my suggestion, because we're seeing this occult blood, sometimes when I do a GI map, when we're done all the work, I say, like, as long as you're feeling good, we don't need to do a retest. But I think seeing this, I would love to do a retest with you in like 7 or 8 months to just see how we did and make sure that the inflammatory bacteria is gone and the occult blood is now at zero. That's like, and steatocrit, I really want to make sure that that's at zero too. And so how we do this is that we address the digestive dysfunction and the inflammatory dysbiosis that's driving up the commensal bacteria, that's causing issues across the board with inflammation in the body. Yeah, so that's the GI map. We don't see any presence of parasites. We don't have symptoms of parasites. Many of the antimicrobial agents that I will add to your protocol indirectly address parasites, but we're not going to go hard at it. I'm just going to check through my notes and make sure that I covered everything. Mild H. pylori activity, we covered that. It's basically going to weaken your ability to absorb B12 and iron and zinc, all critical for hormone production, energy, fertility, which we chatted about. There's an overgrowth of inflammatory bacteria, specifically Pseudomonas. I would consider Streptococcus and Staphylococcus not entirely related to inflammatory bacteria, but this combination is going to trigger inflammation, food sensitivities, damage the gut lining. It can then cause a reactivity to gluten, dairy, eggs, even though you're not allergic to them. It'll drive up the Pseudomonas. So when you have gluten, you feel more inflamed. When you have dairy, you feel more inflamed. So avoiding those, at least for now, is essential. We talked about the Faecalibacterium and the Akkermansia. These are healthy bacteria. And when they're low, it suggests a chronic inflammatory issue, sluggish motility, poor gut repair. And that can tie into like a lifelong constipation issue, history of malabsorption. And therefore, when we have malabsorption, oftentimes it relates to our hormone function. We talked about poor gut immune defense with the secretory IgA. When it's extremely low, it means that your immune system is basically overwhelmed or completely depleted. Usually in the 200s, it's like absolute depletion. And that makes you far more vulnerable to like overgrowths, doesn't allow you to regulate food reactions super well. And when a gut infection comes in, it basically sets up shop because not only do you have weakened immune, you don't have hydrochloric acid because of the H. pylori. We talked about the fat issue with the steatocrit, and basically that'll contribute to sluggish bowels, like completely. Bloating and even hormone detox issues when it comes to the steatocrit. And so with the steatocrit, because this is suggesting liver dysfunction, it's going to take us a while to address. Same with the kidney stuff. Like the dark urine generally will be better corrected when we bring in a binder, which we're going to bring in. I just didn't want to do it on the first protocol and then have you all bunged up digestively. Okay, so this was a real life look into what it sounds like when I interpret a GI map for a client. Now, I had to remove specific things that were unique to the individual, but you can probably hear how much information this test really gives us, like a good amount of information, how it goes far beyond digestion. So we're talking about how the gut impacts hormones, immune strength, inflammation, detox, and even how well your nervous system regulates stress. So for so many clients, this is the moment where things really start to click. My general process is chat with a client, see what's going on with their blood work. If I think that something's going on in the gut that's affecting the rest of the system, I will always check the gut first, because the mystery symptoms finally make sense for so many people when we start picking through these results and we start connecting the fatigue, the bloating, the food reactions. They're not random. They're really messages that the body is saying, hey, something's off down here. It's affecting the rest of the system. So the GI map lets us listen to those specific messages very clearly and builds a protocol that allows us to actually restore function instead of just masking symptoms, because you can take an acid reducer all day long. All it's going to do is run the risk of you getting a chronic H. pylori infection. So if you've been dealing with gut issues, skin breakouts, fatigue, brain fog, food sensitivities that just never seem to go away and you're not getting any answers, a GI map could definitely be the way to go. Now, before we wrap up, I want to be pretty honest with you. I don't work with sponsors or partners anymore, especially starting in 2027. I almost said 2027. 2026, Leanne. This show runs completely on your support, and the best way to help keep it going is to take just a minute to leave a review. I know this costs you your time, but it costs no money. And if you've been listening to this show for 3 or more episodes, you have a good sense of what it's about, and it would mean the world to me and make a huge difference in helping women find the show. And honestly, it's really the reason that I'm able to keep producing episodes like this, because they cost money and I'm paying out of my own pocket. So if you've learned something here, if you've ever felt seen or supported, or you brought in a topic of suggestion and I've covered it, one of these conversations that I've had, I'm hoping that you will take just a moment on the player that you're listening to this on and leave a quick review. It means way more than you could ever know. So thanks for listening. And always remember that your body is constantly communicating with you. Sometimes you just need the right tools to understand what it's saying. And I hope that this episode provided a tool for you, which is the GI Map by Diagnostic Solutions. Okay, we'll see you back here next week for another episode. See you Tuesday. Thanks for listening to the Healthful Pursuit Podcast. Join us next Tuesday for another episode of the show. If you're looking for free resources, there are a couple of places you can go. The first to my blog, healthfulpursuit.com, where you're going to find loads of recipes. The second is a free parasite protocol that I've put together for you that outlines symptoms, testing, and resources to determine whether or not you have a parasite, plus a full protocol to follow to eradicate them from your life if you need to. That's available at healthfulpursuit.com/parasites. And last but certainly not least, a full list of blood work markers to ask your doctor for so that you can get a full picture of your health. You can grab that free resource by going to healthfulpursuit.com/labs. The Healthful Pursuit Podcast, including show notes and links, provides information in respect to healthy living, recipes, nutrition, and diet, and is intended for informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor is it to be construed as such. We cannot guarantee that the information provided on the Healthful Pursuit Podcast reflects the most up-to-date medical research. Information is provided without any representation or warranties of any kind. Please consult a qualified health practitioner with any questions you may have regarding your health and nutrition program.